And hello, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat. This is our new season, and we're going to start it off with a bang. And with me is Colleen Sunley. Hi, Colleen. How are you? Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Are you hearing me?
I hear you perfectly right now.
Wonderful. Yes.
And, you know, for some odd reason,
well.
we had a little bit of a technical difficulty this morning where Wirecast seems to not want to play videos well. You know, it only happens when you're live. So anyway, hey, we've got a brand new season, new show. We've been on break for about 3 weeks, and it's time to get back to work.
I think it's probably because we were on break. All of our equipment decided to go on break too.
I tell you. Anyway, today we've got a pretty well-known person. A lot of you may have heard of his name. Excuse me. That's Mike Rustici, or it's Rustici, from www.scorm.com. He's joined by Tammy Rutherford. We've got them both on screen. Hey, guys, how are you?
Great, thanks.
Well, I'm really glad you guys could make it on, and sorry for the technical difficulties this morning. Unfortunately, it happens sometimes. And you guys are doing all sorts of great stuff with SCORM and LMSs, and I know, quick disclaimer, we're one of your clients on the testing side.
Great.
We are using the SCORM Cloud to do testing. Tell us a little bit about some of the products that you guys have.
So we've made our business over the last 10 years or so basically helping people with SCORM, and our core products have done just that. The main product that we have out there is called our SCORM engine, which is currently embedded into about 150 learning management systems. It's something that sits behind the scenes of a lot of training that people are taking and hopefully making it work better. We also have our SCORM driver product, which is in a similar number of kind of content authoring tools, and people are producing content libraries. We handle all of the SCORM support for Articulate and a bunch of other tools like that. The SCORM Cloud is one of our more recent products, but one of the more innovative ones. And SCORM Cloud has many uses, one of which you mentioned is for testing SCORM content. That's a free service we've offered to the e-learning community for many years now, but SCORM Cloud is also allowing people to take and deliver e-learning products outside of learning management systems through WordPress or Google Apps for Domains, or really just any kind of website. And the applications of that tool have been really interesting over the last couple of years.
In fact, we started using SCORM Cloud. We didn't know about it. Actually, I was telling Tammy yesterday, I don't know how we didn't know about it, but we just found out about it towards the end of last year with one of our clients who does all their testing on it, and then we bought one of the paid accounts. I guess it's free, and then you can get more storage or whatever if you do the paid. And it has made our life so much easier as far as what we do with testing. You know, a lot of times when we work with different LMS, we've probably worked with about 9 or 11 of them throughout the years, and half the time we're flying blind. And this happens to a lot of people who do development, including in-house developers. They don't have access to the systems. So one way to do it is you test outside first, through SCORM Cloud. Then it works. Then usually, I say usually because some LMSs are a little nasty. Usually it works on just about anything you want to put it on, and that saves so much time in debugging. I think the services is one of those, you can't put a price on it kind of thing. So thanks for that one. We like that one.
Absolutely. It's a very common situation that you find yourself in. And we developed this tool because we had a need for it ourselves, and also because we wanted to have the best SCORM player out there. And so we wanted to have a place where everybody was testing their stuff, so everybody let us know when it broke. And that worked really well for a while. And we had a lot of those kind of head-scratching moments where people were asking us why something's working or not working. But over the years, that just served to make our product all that much better.
Yep, that's true. So you've also got some new stuff you're doing that's kind of interesting, and we are starting to use it, or at least we have it in-house, and that's through the Articulate Storyline product, and that's Tin Can. Tell us a little bit about Tin Can for those who aren't familiar with it, because I think this is one of those products that was a gap in the marketplace that's now been filled.
It's filling many gaps, actually, and if you don't cut me off, I could probably talk for the next 4 hours about it. It's really exciting at a lot of different levels. I'll try to keep it pretty quick, though. At its most basic level, Tin Can is the kind of the next generation of SCORM. A few years ago, ADL, which is the government organization that produced SCORM, kind of realized SCORM was 10 years old, and that's an eternity in the world of technology. And so they started a lot of efforts to figure out what that next generation should look like. And one of those efforts was they funded us to do a research study for us to kind of give our ideas of what the next generation should look like. And that had a lot of requirements gathering with us reaching out to the community. I think we had several hundred people who we talked to directly or indirectly throughout that process. And the end of that was Project Tin Can, and we submitted that to ADL and said, hey, this is what we think the next generation of SCORM should look like. And they have since agreed, and they're starting to adopt it. So its official name now is the Training and Learning Architecture and the Experience API portion of that, but everybody just knows it as Tin Can. And you're going to hear a lot about Tin Can over the next couple years. It's already starting to be adopted into some production-ready products like Articulate Storyline that you mentioned. We've got about 30 or 40 other vendors who will have demonstrable products for the DevLearn conference.
Okay.
End of October. And it's going to enable mobile delivery and a lot of other things that you want to do. And I'm going to stop talking, otherwise I'm going to keep talking for the next hour about this.
Well, one of the beauties was the mobile delivery side of it, which allows, I guess, anybody on let's say a tablet or a phone, wherever they are, to still communicate with the LMS. Because before there was that big void, that vacuum between your tablet and the LMS. Now that really solves the issue. And how is that working? Does that work with all LMSs at this point?
It will work with any LMS that supports Tin Can, which is admittedly just a handful right now. That is changing rapidly. Yeah, but rapid still isn't as fast as any of us would like. We can't snap our fingers and get new versions of LMSs deployed out to the world. That's going to take some time. But the more innovative vendors are jumping on board right now.
Well, what I find funny is that everybody's slowly getting into SCORM 2004. And I go, that's 8 years ago. And some people are almost supporting it completely now. It's just really interesting. You're right. They do move slowly. I think it's just the nature of the beast and all the clients. It's hard to get a lot of clients off 1.2.
Well, a big difference here is that the incentive to move from 1.2 to 2004 wasn't really there. The additional functionality offered in 2004 wasn't very tempting to a lot of people and wasn't sufficiently more powerful to motivate them to adopt. With Tin Can, I think you're going to see a much speedier adoption because it's solving real problems that are real frustrations and introducing new capabilities into the learning system ecosphere.
What are some of the big differences between Tin Can and, let's say, 1.2 or 2004?
There's a huge difference. The first is a completely rethought of way of capturing a learning experience. Instead of having a finite data model to say you completed this course, you scored this, and you answered this question this way, the number of things that you can express is virtually unlimited. There's a much richer vocabulary to express the depth of a learning experience. The other big difference is that in Tin Can, any learning experience can be recorded. This broadcast could easily be recorded as a learning experience without having to go and turn it into a formal SCO. We're going to be able to track in-person live events, things coming from mobile devices, games, simulations, anything that you consider a learning experience can now be tracked under the same structure. And that's going to be a huge leap forward.
So in essence, any kind of impromptu learning that happens, let's say you're doing scenario calls for customer service training, something like that, you could actually track that. You could actually record it, put it in an LMS, and now it's available to people.
Absolutely. And a distinction there is you don't even have to put it into the LMS to record it and have it be tracked. Anything that just lives on the web could be tracked as a learning experience.
Interesting. Okay.
You don't have to have a formal notion of a course in order to track a learning experience.
So it could even be remote content that's not in as part of your company, let's say.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so it's much more distributed.
Yeah, we in fact have a demonstration of a simple bookmark that you can put into your web browser, and it says, I learned this, and you can click on it from any web page, and it will gather the information about the current page that you're on, whether it's a TED Talk or a Khan Academy YouTube video or a really interesting article. It'll gather that up and send it off to your LMS to record that as a learning event.
That's pretty exciting. When do you think the LMSs are going to start implementing Tin Can as far as making it production ready?
They're starting right now. We've been making a big effort to seed a lot of that adoption through our customers who have deployed our SCORM engine product, and you're starting to see a few others and put them out there right now. That's a lot of others have it on their near-term roadmap, but that still means it might be a little while before it gets out into customers. You've got to get it onto the LMS vendor's roadmap, and that's happening. Then they have to develop it, and that's happening. Then they have to test it and release it, and then customers have to upgrade to those versions. So there are Tin Can learning record stores available to start tracking things through Tin Can right now. But as to when that's going to hit the majority of companies using existing LMSs, it's going to be a couple of years for those upgrade cycles to percolate their way out. But the more forward-looking companies are really diving into it head first right now.
That sounds really exciting, actually. Colleen, any comments?
Yeah, there's some questions in the chat room, so I think before we move any further, we should jump on them. One of the questions from Dawn is tagging. Is it a thing of the past or more important than ever with Tin Can?
Tagging? Was that the...
Tagging.
Yeah, tagging.
Is it a thing of the past or more important than ever? The identification of content as a general thing, not necessarily through tagging, I think is more important than ever. One of the big challenges we're going to see with Tin Can is now that we have the ability to record anything as a learning event. Let's take that bookmark example. I could go into YouTube and watch a Khan Academy video and click I learned this, and watch a TED Talk and click I learned this, and then go watch the history of dance or funny cat video and click I learned this. Differentiating what is a valid learning experience that I want to track and care about versus something that is not is going to be an interesting challenge that we're going to have to face. When I think of tagging, I start to think of formally organized curriculums and repositories of content, and I think there's still a big place for all of that. But there's going to be also a whole new world of informal learning activities that we're going to have to make sense of as well.
Well, actually, I'm curious, based on the tagging question, if let's say somebody is using the product and says, I just learned this, would it take the tags from the object itself that may be on YouTube or something? It will take those tags.
It absolutely can.
Okay. So in essence, it would be tagged as far as what the original developer had.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically, I guess that answers the next question, which is, can you track a YouTube video on LMS using the Tin Can app API?
Yes, absolutely. And we can show you some demonstrations of how that would work already.
Okay. Next question. Could small company or individual learner use cloud LRS instead of a more expensive LMS?
Yes, maybe. Kind of. So this is a simple question with a very deep answer. I'll start by defining the term LRS for the rest of the group here. LRS is something new called a learning record store. And where the term LRS came from is when we were developing the specification. Our chief technical architect is a guy named Ben Clark. And Ben is really, really smart. And he's the perfect guy to develop a technical spec because Ben is very precise. He's so precise that he doesn't like the fact that our microwave here in the office says your food is ready when it's done, because the microwave has no idea if the food's actually ready or not. It just knows that your timer is done. And this is Ben. And so one day we were geeking out in my office about how we're going to describe the two things that are communicating over the Tin Can API. And Ben said, let's be very precise. Let's not call it an LMS, because it might not be an LMS. It's accepting all of these Tin Can statements. It might be an HR system or talent management system. Let's call it the learning record store. And we'll say the learning record store is the part of an LMS that accepts Tin Can statements and implements the Tin Can API. Well, we started doing presentations about Tin Can and using the term LRS, and every time we would do one, 2 or 3 hands would go up in the back of the room and say, hey, can I get an LRS? Where can I get an LRS? How can I buy an LRS? And it turns out that this model of having an independent place to simply store and retrieve these data elements that track the learning experience is a very popular thing that's gaining a lot of traction. And so you're starting to see people talk about independent learning record stores. And so, yes, we do think that small companies could use independent learning record stores. Even big companies could use independent learning record stores as part of their overall, IT infrastructure. Whether they will or not still remains to be seen, but the idea is pretty popular, and that has all kinds of implications for this industry and for the strategies of existing LMS vendors and new companies entering the market. The question also includes the term individual. Could a small company or individual learner use a cloud learning record store? And we actually do think that there's a very interesting model that is now technically enabled by Tin Can for individuals to maintain their own sets of learning records and not have that data locked up at your employer, but rather have you own your own learning history, contribute to your own learning history, and develop that into almost a resume of sorts about your past experiences. Because in a knowledge-based economy, really what you've learned and how well you've learned it is of tremendous value and importance to potential employers or anybody looking to evaluate your skills.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Are there any other questions right now in the chat room?
No, there's one comment though from Dave, who says that if you want to see an example of Tin Can in action, check out the Tapestry app from Float Learning.
Tapestry is a great early adopter of Tin Can. They've created a iPhone app that's kind of like a Foursquare for learning events. It allows you to check into learning events, as how I like to describe it, and say you're at a conference and you just checked in, and I learned this, and describe what you've learned. That gets all recorded into your personal learning record store. There's lots of other great examples out there. Many of them are linked from tincanapi.com, and lots of ways to see this in action that we'd love to demonstrate to anybody, either just by going to the website, or if you want to dive into it anymore, feel free to give us a call and we'll walk you through some of these things as well.
That's good.
Evangelism Tin Can is pretty much all we do these days, or a few of us do.
Now, I know some of the current products like Articulate, Storyline, the Adobe Captivate 6 are all using your software for, I guess it's kind of like the API to talk to the LMS?
Yeah, so both of those two products and many others are using our SCORM driver product to implement SCORM for themselves. They use our SCORM driver to say, send a score to an LMS, and then we handle doing that either through SCORM 1.2 or 2004 or AICC or now Tin Can. And so we're able to add support for Tin Can into these products and send them out to vendors as part of their upgrade cycle and help them really easily implement Tin Can and to seed some of its adoption.
That's great. That's great. I know we've been using that on both those products, and for the most part, the nice thing is you kind of know how it's going to work. Once you know one, they all pretty much work the same way, which makes life a little bit easier. I did a blog recently, which you commented on, about the lack of interoperability in an interoperable world with LMSs. And it's sort of interesting because even though all of the LMSs are supposed to be the same, quote unquote, as far as they follow the SCORM or AICC. The problem isn't so much in AICC, it's really more of a SCORM issue. At least we haven't seen it as much in AICC, though occasionally you can. And that's that people change, like, for example, completion codes on a lesson. Sometimes it's an uppercase C, sometimes it's a lowercase c, sometimes it's COMP, sometimes it's complete. And for a content vendor, you never quite know what you're about to hit. And when you talk to the people inside the companies, they don't know either. So you've got to deal with the LMS vendors, which are usually pretty helpful in telling you. But that information isn't really readily available out there. And I think that drives more people crazy as authors or developers than just about anything else. How do you get your LMS to track complete, or how do you do certain things? Now, are there any changes with Tin Cup in that, or is that still going to be, Tin Can, or is that still going to be about the same as far as a certain leeway that all the vendors have in their LMS development?
So a few ways to comment on that. The historical context there is, I'll say, neither SCORM or ICC did some really great things, but neither of them got it perfect. Mm-hmm. There was always some wiggle room for interpretation there, and things didn't always work as well as they could, partly because the spec wasn't perfect and partly because vendors were lazy in how they implemented it. With Tin Can, it's too early to tell. I want to say, of course we got it perfect. We specified everything exactly right. And it's nobody's ever going to misinterpret the language we used. But that would be a little bit arrogant to think that we got things perfect the first time around. Tin Can's a much simpler specification in terms of the amount of things that are required, but it's also going to, since it allows for you to record such a great diversity of things, there's going to be more things people are trying to do with it, and so the places where the rubber is going to meet the road, but there might be a lot more of those that will cause problems. And everybody's given us very positive feedback about its simplicity and ease to implement, and hopefully that translates into better interoperability. But it's way too early to predict whether we hit the nail on the head or not.
That's good. Now, as far as testing goes, this is something that a lot of people can take advantage of right now. Is it the best place is to go to scorm.com and then find the Scorm Cloud, or what's the best URL to go to for that?
Yeah, so you can start at tincanapi.com. It'll send you over to Scorm Cloud, which is the same Scorm testing tools we have offered to the community. We're offering Tin Can testing tools, and even the production learning record store in there is going to be free to use for a little while.
That's great. That's great. And I really can't emphasize enough how much that the Scorm Cloud testing part of it is just invaluable. It's just a really good tool to have. And again, you guys have done a great job of that. And you guys are going to be at Learning Solutions, right? I'm sorry, DevLearn. DevLearn.
Yeah, DevLearn will have a big presence for Tin Can. eLearnCon, the eLearning Guild's last big event, was the kind of the coming out party for Tin Can. We started to showcase it. It was the buzz of the whole conference. DevLearn's going to be even bigger for Tin Can. There'll be an entire Tin Can alley with vendors being able to show their products, seeing if they work together, talking about just a place for people to gather and talk about Tin Can. There's 2 big full-day pre-conference workshops featuring Tin Can, and 3 or 4 concurrent sessions describing Tin Can. There'll be a very big presence for Tin Can.
Great. Hey, Tammy, how are you? Tammy.
Good.
Hi.
Good.
You've been quiet. I figured we'd get you into this.
I'm also watching the feed, so lots of good discussion so far about what Mike's just gone through on Tin Can.
That's great. That's great. No, I talked with Tammy on the phone yesterday, and she was very animated until she's quiet. So I'm going,
Start talking about cloud. That's in her bailiwick right there.
Cloud, huh?
That's definitely my baby over here at Rusticy. And so when you were telling me yesterday that you had just found it and, within the past year and found so much value in the testing, that gets us excited to see new people continue to find Scorm Cloud and see the value in the free tools for testing, and then now even taking it beyond that and actually using Scorm Cloud to deliver your Scorm content today. So once you've tested it, you have the clean ability right outside of testing to go ahead and start distributing it to your learners or to other LMS clients as well.
Now, you told me yesterday that people can actually, I think this was this your dispatch tool, that you could actually have the content stored on your site and then other LMSs can reference it from there. That way you always retain control of content and where everything is. So you have a centralized place for it.
That's right. So Dispatch is a pretty unique feature in Scorm Cloud. Great for content providers, for folks that really want to maintain control over their asset, their content. It allows them to maintain it and host it in Scorm Cloud, but it still allows their client to launch, deliver, and track through their own LMS. So it kind of serves the best of both worlds. For content providers, not only are they getting that control or maintaining who gets access to their courses, they have complete reporting on what happens in that course, the ability to upload, overwrite or create new versions of that content as things change, and the ability at the end of the day to disable access to that content if they need to. On the client LMS side, it only requires Scorm 1.2 support, so it does help some of that interoperability we were talking about earlier. If your course is 2004, you can still work with 1.2 LMSs. It's also the dispatch file that the client loads in their LMS is tiny. It's 12K at most.
It's really
So
tiny.
it's a lightweight way to manage content in your client LMS if that's an issue.
Obviously, that wasn't written by Microsoft, but that would have been about 12 gigs. But anyway, you know.
Yes, that's a pretty cool little tool, and we love to talk about it. It's one that I think a lot of people are just now discovering and finding a lot of value in.
That's great. Yeah, it's funny. The cloud is just becoming more and more prevalent in just about everything we do. And it makes sense in a lot of ways. But I like the fact that you can keep, let's say, well, here's a possible scenario, and I'm sure this is kind of what you guys thought of. You have content that you're selling, and you want it to run on 10 different LMSs. You could centralize that on your servers, and then each LMS could actually pick it up. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay.
So one place for it, so you can manage all changes in one location, and you don't have to redeploy packages out.
Nice.
It's really, really efficient when you think about it that way.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Now, where you guys located?
We're in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville.
Yes.
Hotbed of SCORM.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Do you guys work with Aaron Silvers?
We're really close with Aaron Silvers. Aaron works for ADL, and I've known Aaron for years now. I think since we met in Zurich in 2004. That's my first memory of Aaron Silvers, and we've been good friends over the years, and we work very closely as this tin can is evolved by ADL, and we participate very heavily in that evolution.
That's great. I was talking to Aaron at the last ASTD Tech Knowledge and found out he was a musician. So I should ask you guys musicians too?
We have a few in the office. I don't think either of them are sitting here on this call, but there's a few really good ones. One really good one right across the hall. A few more around the office.
Everyone in Nashville is one person removed from music in one way or the other.
I know, really.
An interesting point of fact for you, we actually have no waiters in Nashville, Tennessee. We only have aspiring musicians.
Oh, that's like LA. We have aspiring actors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same idea. Yep. Well, anyway, Colleen, any other questions from the chat room?
No, I don't see any more. I think
They're all busy talking, right?
Yeah, they're talking amongst themselves. So
The
no
chatter.
more questions.
It's chatter in the audience. Well, anyway, guys, this is great. Any other things? Any show? Well, you're going to DevLearn. That's the next show you're going to, right?
We will be at the eLearn DevCon in Philadelphia in a couple weeks, presenting. I think there's 8 hours of tin can content there. Okay. And then I think DevLearn is the next one after that.
That sounds good. And obviously they can get a hold of. We've been showing all the different pages of your website as the show's been going on. And easiest probably address is probably the www.scorm.com, correct?
Yeah, scorm.com is kind of our old traditional website. The new one is tincanapi.com. And all the tin can information out there. But either one will work and get you to the other one. And we love talking about this tin can stuff and Scorm Cloud, and we're happy to help you guys through any questions that you might have, or if you want to learn more, whether you're a customer or not. We spend a lot of time just helping people through these things.
That sounds great. And like I said, as a customer, I've got to thank you because we really appreciate the service you provide. It's great.
We're happy to do it and appreciate you.
Thanks, Rick.
So, and hey, thanks for coming on. And again, if you guys want any more information, please visit www.scorm.com. Lots of good stuff there. I've been on the website. I know my wife, I think, mostly has been on. She's the one who does a lot of our deployments and works with the LMS vendors, and she loves you guys. So, yeah.
Oh, great. Your wife's ahead of my wife, then. She still doesn't know what I do 10 years later.
Well, ours works with us. So I have no choice. It's her job. She keeps saying, "Can't you fire me?" No. Anyway, well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. And for all of you in the chat room, thanks for being there. Colleen, we will see you next week on eLearnChat. Thanks, everyone. We will see you soon. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.